What's up, nerds? It's Zach the Goblin here. The grim darkness of the Warhammer 40k universe has been called overpowered to a ridiculous extent. So much so that they frequently have issues with scale and consistency. But you see, I wouldn't change any of that for the world. I think it all adds to the charm of the universe. But sometimes you probably find yourself wondering, how does 40k stack up against other universes? So today, for the first time on the channel, we are going to dive into the subject and do a versus battle. Today, we are starting big and we'll be discussing who wins between the Emperor of Mankind and Omniman from the Invincible universe. But before we begin, please, for me, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that noti bell, as it really does help the channel out. I post Warhammer 40k content every Friday and even throw in a few extra videos from time to time. Okay, with that out of the way, it's Goblin time. Okay, so for this video, we're going to be discussing 4 different categories. For the first category, I'm starting out with one of the easiest ones to determine. You can't really talk about the Emperor of Mankind without including the Imperium of Man in some way, shape, or form. And to make it at least somewhat fair, I'm going to say that all of the Viltrumites are banding together under Omniman. Okay, so we have the Imperium of Man. You could probably take this at any time. I don't really think it changes much. Let's say after the Horus Heresy, but pretend the Emperor is still alive, because I'd say that's probably when the Imperium's at its weakest. But again, I don't really think it matters. And against that, we have the Viltrumite Empire after their civil war and the Scourge virus, which numbers roughly 50. And I'm really only including this section because basically it doesn't matter how powerful each Viltrumite is. I don't think they could overcome the untold billions that the Imperium could bring to bear. Each Viltrumite is a god among men, but I would compare it to a human versus bees, assuming you're not allergic. Yeah, you could probably take out countless bees, but eventually each of those little stings is going to build up. Death by 1,000 cuts, if you will. You can't beat essentially infinity bees, but essentially that's kind of what the battle between the Imperium of Man and the Viltrumites would be. Like, yeah, each Viltrumite could probably take out an entire planet by themselves, but there's only 50 of them. And that's not even mentioning the fact that the Imperium of Man has horrific weapons of mass destruction at their disposal. But now let's make it a little more interesting. Let's say the Viltrumites had their numbers before the Scourge virus and their civil war. So let's take the statement that the Scourge virus wiped out 99.9% of all Viltrumites. Now, I don't think that's meant to be an exact percentage, but let's just take it as fact for the purpose of this. Doing some math, that would mean that before the Scourge virus, there were 50,000 Viltrumites. And I could be mistaken, but I believe it was said that the Civil War took out approximately half of them. So before that, they had about 100,000 Viltrumites. Okay, that makes things a little more interesting. Maybe the Imperium couldn't just drown out the Empire by numbers alone, except for the fact that I still think they could. Let's say that the Imperium of Man at this point has 100 billion soldiers. They have more than that, but let's just say for simplicity's sake that that's how many they have. Each Viltrumite would have to take on 1 million soldiers by themselves to break even. And let's say they were just regular guardsmen. Maybe. I still think they can't, but let's say maybe they can. It's not just guardsmen. It's Astartes. It's some of the Primarchs. And again, that's not even taking into account that the Imperium has weapons that erase people from existence. Like they have a retcon gun, a weapon that not only just erases you, it erases you from ever having existed. So because of that, in all situations, I think that the Imperium of Man takes this category. So the first point goes to the Emperor of Mankind. Okay, so for this next section, we're going to forget about all of the armies and resources afforded to each of them and just say, in a 1v1 fight, who comes out on top? So the Emperor of Mankind doesn't actually have a lot of feats, so he's kind of hard to scale. Because of this, I'm going to use the Primarch's feats to scale him, barring one important aspect, which I think will be important later, even though I don't think it actually scales like that 1-to-1. For example, I don't think the Emperor is actually as physically strong as some of his stronger sons. But again, let's just pretend he is. Omniman, on the other hand, is actually quite easy to scale because you actually see him doing shit, so that's nice at least. Okay, let's start with the physical prowess of the Emperor. For strength, the feat I'm going to use here is Angron holding up one of the legs of a Warhound Titan in the book Betrayer. And a Warhound Titan is a big boy. Looking around online, I found that they're probably about 450 US tons, which is a lot of weight. Granted, Angron was only holding up one of his legs, not the entire Titan, so even though I think he was holding up less weight than this, let's say it was half the weight at 225 tons. tons. And Angron isn't even said to be the strongest Primarch, so let's round up and say 250 tons. Again, I'm being very generous here. Okay, now we're going to move to the Emperor's speed and reflexes. Again, using the Primarchs, we see that they all achieve superhuman speed and reaction times, with their reaction time being much better than their actual movement speed. And this is where the trickiness of 40k comes into play, because the speed of the Primarchs is very dependent on who's writing the book. It is not consistent at all, which is going to be a reoccurring issue when it comes to scaling the Emperor. Like, some authors seem to imply that the Primarchs can react at the speed of light, which no, they can't. That's stupid, and it's not really supported, especially because we see Primarchs wounded by normal people and Astartes, and they don't move anywhere close to the speed of light. So for reaction and movement speed, I'm going to use Fulgrim cutting a bullet in his Primarch novel. And if I'm not mistaken, these were normal slug throwers, and they were described as archaic by the Imperium standards. So let's say it's equivalent to how fast bullets are here. Now, I'm not a gun expert, but online I found that faster rounds can be around 3,000 feet per second or 930 meters per second. So let's say the Emperor's speed and reaction time is in that ballpark. But again, Fulgrim isn't described as the fastest Primarch, so let's bump him up a little bit and say that he can move and react to speeds of about Mach 3, which, hey, is nothing to scoff at. And our last physical attribute is durability. The Emperor of Mankind is a perpetual. He's functionally immortal. If given enough time, he can recover from pretty much anything. I don't really have any more to say about that at this point in time. We will come back to it though. Okay, so now we're going to scale Omniman. He is very strong as shit, you might even say. I'm going to use the feat that a lot of people talk about, and it's him stopping an asteroid the size of Texas from colliding with the Earth. Now, this is much bigger than a Warhound Titan. Now, he wasn't struggling against the full weight of the asteroid, as it hadn't yet entered into Earth's atmosphere, but it was still definitely being acted upon by the Earth's gravity. Let's say it was around the edge of the exosphere, or the outer layer of the atmosphere, at about 10,000 kilometers away from Earth. Even that far up, the Earth's gravitational pull is only about 3% less. So it would still be big and heavy as shit, even if you don't want to take that feat into consideration. He's also shown easily lifting a mountain up. He punched Invincible into a mountain with enough force to cause an earthquake, leading to cracks up the mountain and an avalanche. Basically, he is immensely physically stronger than the Emperor or any of the Primarchs. Now for speed, Omniman is also very fast. He has faster than light speeds while moving across the galaxy. But let's say he can't move that fast while on a planet. Now to scale Omniman's speed, we should first talk about a different character, Red Rush, who is the Invincible's equivalent to the Flash. Red Rush has been shown to be faster than lightning. And for this, we'll use the downstrike of lightning, which is about 100,000 meters per second. Not exact, but I'm rounding here, which is about Mach 291, significantly faster than Mach 3. Now, I don't believe Omniman's as fast as this, but he was able to react to Red Rush when they fought, and was even able to get his hands on him. So regardless of what percentage of Mach almost 300 you put Omniman at, he's definitely heads and tails faster than Mach 3. And I do want to make a note here that Invincible scaling is also kind of all over the place, but since you see more feats, you can kind of paint a more clear picture of how fast or strong characters are, I feel at least. Now for durability, Omniman isn't a perpetual, so he isn't immortal. That being said, he is extremely durable. He's shown just straight tanking a death space laser. He's at one point punched through the stomach and survives that. Basically, while not immortal, he's pretty damn close. So just taking physicality into consideration, Omniman wins this by a mile, right? It doesn't matter if you're immortal, if you're dragged into space and thrown into the sun. And the Emperor can't fly, which was the one thing I wasn't going to take from the Primarchs, because Sanguinius can fly, but the Emperor's never been shown to do anything like that, at least as far as I know. But that being said, the Emperor isn't just physical power. He's also the strongest Psyker in the universe. And again, this is hard to scale because Psykers range from essentially just being space wizards to literal gods who can stop time, depending on who's writing the book. Psychers are not consistent at all. And this essentially comes down to, can the Emperor destroy Omni-Man before Omni-Man can reach the Emperor? Because that's what I think each of their win conditions are. If Omni-Man can get his hands on the Emperor, I think the Emperor's done. So if he can stop that and incapacitate him before that, that's how the Emperor wins. Now, I don't think Warp Lightning or Warp Fire is going to do enough damage quickly enough to stop Omni-Man, because it's stated that Omni-Man can survive great heat of about 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit or 3,315 degrees Celsius, while normal fire can get to about half that temperature at 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,500 degrees Celsius. And Warp Fire could be significantly hotter, but we don't really know. And also, we need to take into consideration that 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit is the cutoff of when he starts actually taking damage, because anything below that, he's just like, no, yeah, that's cool, that's fine. But can the Emperor destroy Omni-Man's mind before Omni-Man can get his hands on him? Maybe. It depends. Omni-Man is shown to be resistant to mind control, but that's not quite the same as a Psyker onslaught. But I think I'm going to stop waffling about and just say that, as much as it pains me to admit, I think Omni-Man just blitzes the Emperor of Mankind. I think he punches through the Emperor before he can even react, and then throws his body into the sun before he can regenerate. Now, again, Psyker powers are kind of all over the place, so if you think that the Emperor's Psyker aura would stop Omni-Man, I'm not really gonna argue with you. I disagree, but I think there is an argument that could be made there. But I'm gonna move on and award this point to Omni-Man, making our score tied at 1-1. Okay, now that we got all of that boring stuff out of the way, we're moving on to the categories that really matter. Starting with, who's getting the most play? Who's cracking the bigger baddies? Oh, you thought this was going to be a serious video? Come on now. For the Emperor, I always got the vibe that he was just above sex, if that makes sense. The Primarchs were test tube babies. I don't think he was cracking Erda. Like, he seems like he just doesn't have time for it, nor does he care about it. Like, he is a being without desires. And while I think he definitely could get some if he wanted it, I just think he doesn't want it. Now, Omni-Man, on the other hand, we know he gets it. I mean, he was cracking the baddie that is Debbie. A pet. And we know he's not above even getting a little freaky with some bug women. Basically, what I'm saying is, Omni-Man knows balls. So this one seems pretty cut and dry for me. Omni-Man takes this one as well, making the score 1 for the Emperor of Mankind and 2 for Omni-Man. Okay, so for this next section, we're talking about something that is probably just as important to some of you gooners, and that's who has the better feet.
Are you sure?
As stated in my Primarch feat tier list, the Emperor has this ability to appear perfect to everyone. And because of that, whatever you think the perfect pair of feet should look like, that's how his feet are going to look to you. The Emperor easily has S-tier feet. Omni-Man, on the other hand, probably just has normal adult man feet. I think at their best, they're probably just okay, but he is from a warrior race, so they could also be kind of gnarly, taking into consideration all the punishment that happens to him and all the battles he goes through. So because of this, I'm gonna give it to the Emperor of Mankind. So that ties the score back up at 2-2. Okay, with the score all tied up, that means I now have to bring out the tiebreaker. And I think in this conversation between who's better, the Emperor of Mankind and Omni-Man, I really saved the most important thing for last. The winner of this versus battle will be decided by this last category. Who's thicker? And as always, we're going to start with the Emperor of Mankind. Just like with the feat category, the Emperor's perception-altering abilities definitely come into play here. I'm assuming he would appear with the most juiciest booty you could even imagine. So thick, in fact, that it's intimidating. I can't handle all that, you would say to yourself. A booty you would worship. A booty so godly that it is basically impossible for anyone to overcome.
Are you sure?
But Omni-Man has something that the Emperor could never have, and that's homegrown booty. The Emperor has essentially an Instagram filter going on at all times. Whatever you're seeing, it's not real. He's just forcing that perception upon you. But Nolan's ass, it breaks through that reality-bending aura. He's so thick that he can block attacks with it. He could crush skulls between those round cheeks. So I think I have no choice but to give the tiebreaker to Omniman, which brings our final score, the Emperor of Mankind 2, Omniman 3. Making our victor, thick-ass Omniman. Thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. It really does mean a lot. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and also let me know if you want to see me cover any characters in a video like this. Thank you again. Until next time, Goblin out.